Hi, everyone, and welcome back to day 3 of the Leading Transformational Change Forum. I'm Holly Benner, and I am so pleased to moderate this session presented by Lori Heffelfinger of the Heffelfinger Company. Lori has over 2 decades of experience cultivating leaders and aligning teams to drive sustainable, scalable business results. Lori is a masterful facilitator and an all-around amazing person with nearly a dozen licenses and certifications. She's that rare combination of EQ and IQ. Lori is also a former business executive, an adjunct professor at Pepperdine University, and a true expert when it comes to team performance. So without further ado, I'm excited to introduce Lori Heffelfinger.
Thanks, Holly. Looking forward to spending time with you and our audience. So my topic today is really about accelerating team performance. And I would have to say I come by this interest in this topic naturally. It started when I was a teenager, when my mother decided to remarry and we integrated 2 families. And while that was hard, it was definitely worth it. So my interest continued in teaming when I went on to grad school and I did my master's thesis in self-directed work teams and was able to actually see that research applied real time in a chemical distribution company. So I'm a big fan of teaming and team performance and currently work with teams of all sizes, all different types, executive teams, project teams, and boards as well. So the goal for the session today is really to discover and utilize strategies that most leaders avoid that are key to creating immediate ownership and buy-in. And I want to just challenge you all, because I think what you're going to hear is really nothing new. But the question is are you following these guidelines and ideas? So, and just to demonstrate that I question whether folks are using these is we look at the state of teams these days, and there's a high failure rate. So in some of the articles I read, one article said 75% of cross-functional teams are dysfunctional. And a Blanchard survey said only 27% of teams actually believe they're performing at top levels the majority of the time. And 43% of teams believe they're actually performing at optimum levels half the time. So that's from a Blanchard survey. Other surveys talk about alignment, collaboration, and trust being big obstacles. So 86% citing collaboration as an issue. 97%, that's almost 100%, believe lack of alignment impacts outcomes. And then, of course, 45% believe lack of trust and leadership is an issue. And then here was one that was really interesting, is over the last 40 years, HBR articles, team alignment has appeared in the top 8 topics over the last 4. So this has been going on for about 40 years. So hoping we can improve that. So love to have you share and chat what you see, if these are what symptoms you see in your team. This is what I hear from some of my clients. Silos, and not only silos, but silos within silos. So teams not working well cross-functionally, cross-department, slow decision-making for whatever reason, disengagement, teams not engaged. And I think that's especially true now because of the pandemic and people working virtually. Backstabbing in politics. You hear people say, I don't want to deal with that because of politics, missed goals, teaming requiring too much time, or the team requiring too much of the leader's time. Confusion around roles, responsibilities, and accountabilities, too much conflict or not enough conflict. Kind of depends on the team, or lack of personal ownership. So I'm going to share a story of a team I worked with in 2021, and I'll be referencing that team throughout the presentation. But I was hired, my colleague and I were hired in 2021 by a CEO of a smaller financial services firm. He was formerly from a very successful, well-known financial services firm, was brought in by the board to create to basically take the organization to the next level. They had been an innovator in their field and now essentially had lost that edge. And so when he came in to the organization, he did find some of these things. He did find silos within silos. He found slow decision-making, team taking too much of his time, and too little conflict is essentially what he found. So curious as to what, anything in chat, Holly? No.
No, it seems as though the chat is not functioning at
Okay.
the moment.
Okay. All right. So just think to yourselves what you see in your teams and what symptoms. So to deal with some of these symptoms, I believe there are 3 ingredients that make for effective team performance. And the first one has to do with having the right people. And the second one is having those people exhibiting the right team behaviors. And thirdly, the team using good structure and processes. And I say the team's success also does depend on the context in which they're working. So in my thesis, I did discover that the organizational climate makes a big difference. So it needs to be supportive of the team as well. You need to have the right culture. You need to have the right processes and design in place as well. But today we're really going to just talk about these 3 ingredients. So the first ingredient is really having the right people. And this probably seems obvious, but I think many of us are putting up with mediocrity, I'd say. So I love these quotes. When you hand good people possibility, they do great things. And I think that's true. And then it's better to work alone than in bad company. I've definitely found that to be true. You know, sometimes it feels you just would rather do it by yourself than work with the team that you've got. So super important, seeing these with clients. So I think you need to ask yourself this question. Do you have the right people on your team? Or are you settling? And so ideally you would answer C, yes. Every single member is pulling their weight and working well with each other. I think too often we see people answering either A or B. B, maybe they have the right talent overall, so they pick the right team members, but the team is not working well together. That's easier to work with. We can work with that. You know, and I think we'll hear more about that. But no, A, maybe you have one or more key functional or technical leaders who have bad behavior, but you're keeping them because for whatever reason you believe they're essential. They have a key customer contact. They know a key technology, or you don't have a replacement. I'm just going to tell you that you're going to have trouble being high performing if you've answered A. And B, we can work on it. C is what you really want to have over time. All right. So with the example that I was sharing, the CEO of the financial services firm, he went in and right away discovered he needed to upgrade his team. And so he started on the functional side. He got a new marketing person, he got a new finance person, and he was able to get business processes in place and relationships with customers right away. He didn't do anything with his investment team. I think he felt at the time he had the right people. He was going to give them a chance. So the next key ingredient is really about having the right behaviors. And so this is Patrick Lencioni's model, 5 behaviors of a cohesive team or 5 dysfunctions of a team. And so it really starts with each of these behaviors builds on the other. So it starts with trust, then goes to conflict, commitment, accountability, results. So trust is really the basis. And I think that we've seen an erosion of trust through the pandemic and just generally because people have been working apart, people are new to each other. And so it does take time to build trust. Trust can simply be lost because people don't know each other or they haven't spent time with each other or they're new to each other. So as in the financial services team, we did have to spend time working on trust. Trust is the ability to admit mistakes, to ask for help. And then once you have trust built, you can then start working on constructive conflict. And so most people think, I don't want conflict in my team, but you really do. You want constructive conflict. You want the ability to debate, because it's when everyone's voices are heard, all perspectives, you get a big picture about what's going on. You can make better decisions if you take time to debate and bring out all the voices. But it does take some skills to engage in constructive conflict. And conflict looks a little different based on the organization or the team. Some teams are very loud and, direct, and that's good. Some other teams are more respectful and do it differently. So it is important to figure out what is conflict, what's productive conflict on your team. And then when you're able to engage in constructive debate, you can then move into committing to decisions. And commitment really looks like clarity. You have clarity of where you're going. You're able to debate. You've decided what the key priorities are. So this was a big issue with conflict was a big issue with this financial services team because they had lack of conflict and they were afraid to confront the CEO, who was very direct. But they also couldn't commit. They couldn't commit because they had so many priorities. The CEO thought the priorities were obvious, although he probably had 20. And then when we surveyed the team, we found out that each teammate had different priorities. So there was probably a set of about 50 priorities. So no wonder they couldn't commit. No wonder there was lack of clarity, and no wonder there was lack of buy-in. So we had to take time, and they had to take extra time to really hone in on what is it they're committing to. And then to figure out during meetings, what are they leaving with? What are the decisions they made? Then once you're able to get to commitment, you can move to accountability. And I would have to say that this is the hardest place, and yet the kind of the sweet spot for high performance. And it really has to do with accountability and mutual accountability. It's the ability to give feedback and take feedback. It's instead of relying on the key executive to call people out, it's that you're comfortable enough with your teammates that you can call each other out. You can say, Holly, hey, I thought you said you were going to do that. What happened? Can I support you? It's looking at team goals. So that's important. And then when you're able to hold each other accountable to mutual issues, then you can focus on collective results. So super important. And again, I would believe this financial services team, they got all the way up through commitment. And I would say there's still a work in progress around accountability. I would honestly say about 5% of teams actually reach this nirvana state of accountability, even though most leaders are wanting this. So key is having the right behaviors. And I have this team one here concept, and that really has to do with when you're on an executive team, especially, and you've got cross-functional, your primary team is your team of peers, not necessarily your staff. Your staff is important, but your team of peers is super important. So then once you have the right behaviors, then you want to put in the right, you want to put in key structures and processes. And this is a high level of some of the structures and processes that you could be looking at. But you want to have a purpose. Not only what is the purpose of the business, but what's the purpose of your team? What are you really trying to accomplish together? What's your vision? What do you want to become as a team? Cohesive, strategic, what is it that you want to become? And what are your values? How are you going to operate as a team? Do you want to be open and honest with each other, supportive? What are the values that you want? And then finally, what's the focus of the team? What are your goals? What must you achieve in the short term with this team? What are your short-term goals? Super important because we're in such a dynamic environment right now. And it's going to continue, that you need to be constantly aligning as a team. What are the short-term, long-term goals? And then again, priorities. How are you going to achieve those goals? What's the most important thing for us to do in the next 30 days, in the next 60 days? And If, as a leadership team, you're able to get clear on direction and focus, you can cascade this down to your teams and to your teams as well. Employees are looking for that clarity and understanding of where the organization is going. And then lastly, what are the roles? What does each team member need to do to contribute to goals? So you may be the HR leader, but what is your role in contributing to financial results? If you're a business leader, what's your role in contributing to the HR goals? So as a leadership team, you're owning the goals together. So what holds all this together, I believe, the secret sauce is consistently run structured and unstructured ways of meeting. So being really intentional about how you meet. And I think the organizations that I've worked with that engage in these processes and behaviors and then hold it together with a cadence of meetings, they're the ones. I worked with a general manager years ago at Honeywell, and he had a series of meetings in which he ran his business. He actually showed me his spreadsheet, cash flow meetings, quarterly talent meetings, budget meetings. He had all kinds of meetings. It was so well done. I actually suggested he write a book on it. He didn't, but others did later. That leader was the highest performing president and business unit in the 2 years he was leader across Honeywell because of this. So super important. I think my financial services organization that I worked with, they figured this out as well. And it's really helped them with their results. And I continue to see this with other leaders. Okay, but team performance starts with you. You have, as a leader, you have to believe it's a priority. You have to model it, and you have to spend time. And some of the I see 4 key limiting beliefs about alignment and team that I really believe lead to missed results. And the first is the senior leader believes the direction is clear and understood. So, hey, we don't need to talk about it because we've talked about it so many times. It should be clear and understood. So we don't need to meet. The team members are talented adults and should be able to work through issues on their own. We shouldn't have to get together and take meeting time to figure this out. That is a limiting belief, not true. And ensuring consensus or alignment is too time consuming. It is time consuming, but it does help you move faster. And the fourth one I see is it's not measurable and therefore it's not important. It's a soft skill. It's not measurable. Let's not spend time on it. But it is important. So I think these are the limiting beliefs that I see get in the way of true team performance. So the single strategy you may be avoiding as a leader that may be costing you big time is taking the time to build the team or create alignment versus working with a set of individuals. And I go back to that statistic that said 97% of employees and executives believe lack of alignment impacts. So if 97% of folks believe lack of alignment, then we should be taking the time to focus on this. So again, in summary, the key to creating buy-in and ownership is getting the right people, having the right behaviors, putting structure and processes in place to create alignment and performance. The results that you should expect would be purposeful meetings, engaged team members, healthy debate and constructive conflict, problem solving, real time, role clarity, cross-department collaboration, execution on top priorities, business results. And I think the financial service firm I worked with did have their growth targets met and exceeded. Agility and ease in delivering results. And then for you yourself as a leader of a team, allowing you to be more strategic because your team is humming, allowing you to be less stressed. So, okay. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts on accelerating team performance. Holly, what do you think? Do we have any questions?
No questions. There is some in the chat, some responses in the chat, if anybody would like to add more.
Okay, yes. We struggle with too much time is required of management and confusion. Yes, true. Slow decision making, fear. Yes. What advice would you have when a manager with bad behavior with cross-functional peer and team? History between peer manager group suffers from delivering work. Wow, that's a big question. What advice would you have when a manager with bad behavior with a cross-functional peer and team? Okay, so I think if you have a manager with bad behavior and there's a couple different ways you can deal with it. If this person reports to you, you can work with this person one-on-one, tell them what you expect. You can bring the two together, tell them what you expect, and you can bring the whole team together and work with them. I did some work years ago with that general manager at Honeywell, and he did have his marketing person was kind of he had his opinions and the rest of the team didn't agree with him. And yet he was so vital to the team. So we spent time at the team level working with him and getting him to talk to his peers and work through what was marketing going to be doing and what was the rest of the team's roles in working with that marketing group. So it worked out, but we had to work on it.
Lori, great response to that question. And James has one in the chat. One bad apple, how do you handle? How fast?
Oh, well, one bad apple, how do you handle? I think you start having one-on-one conversations and you, again, lay out your expectations. I think the key thing to overcoming the one bad apple is your perspective. So ask yourself, what are you putting up with and why? And what's the worst thing that can happen if you take time to replace that person? And what's it going to cost you in the long run if you don't? I think what I see so often is the bad apple's not dealt with and the team suffers, other people leave, and your issues just worsen.
There's a reason why that is a saying. One bad apple spoils the bunch.
Yes.
And another great response, we do have another question. How can individual contributors effectively manage upwards with their leadership?
That's a great question as well. I think, I wonder if this has to do with teaming. Okay, so managing upward. I think you just need to have a conversation with your leader, share what you're observing, share what your desires are, and maybe share some suggestions. Tell that leader you're supportive of them, you want to help them, and you see some things on the team that could be better. And you want to be part of a really high-performing team. And you're willing to do what you can to make it happen.
Wonderful, great suggestion. And if that is it, then we thank everybody for joining our session. Lori, thank you so much for such a great facilitation about high-performing teams.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Holly.
Thank you.